Thanks for being here. My name is Rich Wolowski with Gordon Food Service. On behalf of the Gordon Food Service team and Square Roots, our warmest welcome to you today for being here. I know that everyone has busy schedules, but this is an exciting day for us. 6 months ago, the last week of March was the actual time when we said, yes, we're going to do this. And to see this whole thing come together in 6 months has been a major, major accomplishment. So first, we have a number of distinguished guests here today that I want to recognize for a minute. First, our U.S. Representative, Bill Huizenga. Bill, could you raise your hand? Thank you for being here. Our State Senator, Peter McGregor. Our State Representative, Luke Mirren. And then we also have numerous people from the Western Michigan District of Representatives, offices from U.S. Senators Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters, as well as representatives from the Kent County, Ottawa County, and City of Wyoming. So thank you for being here. Also, wanted to thank the Dan Voss construction team. Could you raise your hands right over here? This team did an outstanding job getting us to where we're at today. So just feel so thankful for them and their leadership. And also, most importantly, we have more than a dozen of our valued customers here today. So thank you for being here and being part of this. Round of applause. So I'm excited to say that we are the first broadline distribution company in food service to take on this project where we're bringing fresh, hyper-local product to our customers. We're very proud of that. So what you see behind me is new. This is the future. But also what you see over here on the right-hand side is a 1950 Chevy pickup truck. Now, John Sr. Gordon, before he passed away, told Kevin DeCavers that truck actually delivered butter and cheese up in Traverse City. Also, his mother, Ruth, actually delivered product on that truck to our customers. So that is just an amazing part of the past, and this is part of the future. So as part of this effort, the purpose is to bring new, innovative product to our customers. And so we're excited to be partnered with a change agent, kind of helping reshape how food is distributed, how it's prepared, and how it's served. And so there are many, many critical inputs go into the equation, and we recognize how important it is for Gordon Food Service to be relevant as we think about the future. So it's really exciting to build relationships and work with forward-thinking companies. And one of those companies is Square Roots, which I'm going to introduce here in a second. But Square Roots is a strategic partner of Gordon Food Service. They offer indoor capabilities for farming, environmental insights. This is high-tech, folks, leading-edge technology. And so together, we've created this new facility that's a proof of concept. And the larger ambition for us is to build these farms across our network in the U.S. and Canada. So in this very site, we will be growing and selling fresh basil, chives, and mint to customers throughout Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. And we'll be doing it all year long. And yes, that means local, fresh produce for our customers. Now, these products aren't going to replace our traditional products that we sell through our traditional suppliers, but this is going to give us something different, something fresh, something local to offer to our customers. So what I'd like to do is introduce Square Roots to you. This is an amazing, thought-provoking, innovative company that is just taking new ground. So I'd like to introduce Kimball Musk and also Tobias Peggs. Kimball?
I cannot wait for you guys to try this product. It is the best basil that I have ever been able to find. We found what we are able to do with our technology in our campus here is recreate a climate that we found to be perfect for outdoor basil. And the climate we found was in Genoa, Italy, which everyone knows is the best basil you can buy. It's where it originated from. But we actually found a season in 1997 where all the chefs said this is the best basil you could that they remember eating. And we went back and looked upon that year, and we saw what time the sun came up, what time the sun set, what was the humidity in that area, what was the carbon dioxide like, what was the oxygen like, and we were able to recreate that right here in these farms that you will get to see in a moment. And importantly, it's done by actual farmers, where there's real love put into it. When I was 12, I grew up in South Africa, and I started cooking for my family, and it was one of the most beautiful things for me to be able to bring my family together. As you can imagine, I had a very busy family, but when I cooked, everyone would sit down and eat together. And I went to Silicon Valley after I graduated university. Now I learned how to build software companies, internet companies, and frankly, I was pretty bored because my passion was food. And coming back to chefs, I actually went to New York and I studied at the French Culinary Institute and got my diploma in French cuisine and French cooking, and went then to, actually at the time I even had an incredible opportunity to cook for the firefighters at 9/11, almost 20 years ago now. And ever since then I've focused my purpose and my passion on food, and to imagine growing real food by real farmers 12 months of the year, every single day, the best product you can get, regardless of season. Even in the best of seasons here, you can get pretty good basil, but it won't be as good as this basil. This basil will be the absolute best you can get. And we're able to do that with our young farmers. We're going to bring them up in a bit, but before we do that, I'd love Tobias Peggs, the CEO of Square Roots, to say a few words. I want to make sure that you guys know how amazing Gordon Foods has been as a partner. Tobias can speak to it. We've seen Rich and Dan and Jim put their whole passion into it. Mac, you've been spearheading it from Chicago. Just the energy and innovation we have seen at Gordon Foods to take a risk, because this is new, to work with us to keep the vision intact. It's about farmers who love the food that they're growing, chefs that love the food they're putting on the plate, working with a distribution company where we can harvest this in the morning and get it to someone's plate by lunchtime. That's the kind of innovation that Gordon Foods represents, and we are absolutely thrilled to be partners with you guys.
Yeah, I cannot echo that loudly enough, having been involved with so many people here over the last 12 months. In fact, a couple of us were talking this morning. We had a visit from Rich and Kevin and a few others. I think, Mac, you were there. It was about 350 days ago. We invited the guys to come to our little pilot farm in Brooklyn. And I remember Kevin actually sketching out what a farm could potentially look like one day if we all really rallied around that idea. And here we are less than a year later opening the farm. It's quite remarkable. And so I'm just going to talk about three things really. If you think about Square Roots, our mission is to bring real locally grown food to people in cities all around the world eventually, and to do that by empowering the next generation of farmers, right? So if you think about Square Roots, think about the technology. Kimball has talked about this. It is a very scalable, modular farm tech platform that we have built. I'm not going to talk too much about it because we're going to go see it in a second. But inside each of these containers, as Kimball says, we basically replicate the best climate from anywhere around the world to grow amazing crops, but we do that right here in Michigan, and we can do that 12 months a year, which is amazing. The second part of Square Roots is what we call the Next Gen Farmer Training Program. So as well as growing food, we're really here to grow people, right? To empower the next generation of leaders in this food industry, to give them their start. Well, we have our farmers here who are like 2 weeks into the program. They'll be here with us for 12 months. Wave your hands. If anyone's got any questions about the farmers, talk to these guys. In the 12 months that the farmers are with us, not only will they farm and pack and help with distribution and get out there and support marketing efforts and get the food in the hands of the chefs in this region, but they'll also learn about plant science. They'll learn about entrepreneurship frameworks. They'll learn about community building. And all of that curriculum adds up to really creating an incredible launch pad for them to have amazing careers in food. I'm so excited that you're right at the beginning version of that. And then because we've got the farm tech and the farmers, we grow amazing food. And I think, today we're going to cut the ribbon, and then within weeks, we'll be getting this food out to customers in the region, and it's so exciting. So, Rich, thank you so much for your leadership for making this happen. And I think we should go cut the ribbon. Yeah, this is kind of the fun part, I guess, where we get to show people what's happening inside. All right, so when you think about building a farm in the middle of Michigan, and you realize the winter here is pretty brutal, you've got to really figure out how you use resources in a very different way. So I'm going to open this farm in a minute and show you what's going on, but we're going to talk about space, we're going to talk about water, we're going to talk about energy, and we're also going to talk about software. Let's open the doors and show you what's going on. All right, so feel free to take photos. So I'm going to talk very briefly about what's happening here, right? The first thing that you'll notice is that we're not growing in 2 dimensions like you would do in an outdoor field, right? We've basically taken that outdoor field and turned it on its end, and we've put a number of those fields in there, right? And so what that means is that we're now growing food in 3 dimensions instead of 2 dimensions, and so you get a lot more food out of the same size footprint. When you combine that with climate control, so by that what I mean is, we're growing basil in here. Inside that farm, it basically feels like Genoa, right? It's the north of Italy. It feels beautiful, and it feels like that all year round. Even when there's 2 foot of snow outside, inside the farm, it's the perfect basil conditions. So when you've got better space utilization, and you've got that ability to grow food and harvest, we'll harvest in here 3 times a week. 52 weeks a year, right? You can get so much food out of this box. This one container, which is about 340 square foot, is going to grow as much as a 3 or maybe even a 5 acre outdoor farm, just in this one. And we have 10 of these, right, that are all growing basil and mint and chives and other things. So an incredible amount of food that you can get out of it. The second thing that's really cool about these farms is how little water they use. So there's no soil in this farm at all, right? It's what's known as a hydroponic system. It uses about 90% less water than the equivalent outdoor farm would use. The reason for that is that we bring in the water source, we add nutrients and give it exactly what the plant needs. The water then is kind of dripping down through these towers. The plant is absorbing exactly the amount of water and nutrient that it needs, and then any runoff water is captured in a tray at the bottom and then recirculates. So it's a completely closed loop system, right? In an outdoor field, all of that water just runs off into the oceans. None of that happens here. So very, very, very efficient when it comes to water use. And then the third thing that we do here is you'll notice the lights, they're not quite white light like the sun, right? There's a shade of pink. And actually, as the plant grows, the shade of the light will change as well. And the reason for that is when you study photosynthesis, which is, the plant taking energy from a light source and then converting that into biomass, growing the leaves, it actually isn't absorbing all of the light that the sun will give, right? It's only absorbing certain spectrums of the light. And so what we're able to do is just push in the exact spectrum of light that the plant needs. And what that means then is we're really making the most efficient use of the energy, right? We're only giving the plant the light that it needs. So through clever use of space, clever use of water, clever use of energy, you're able to grow a lot of food but using very few resources. And then the final aspect of the farm is probably the stuff that you can't really see, right? So software. So these farms are all cloud connected. We're capturing real-time data about the climate. All right, we're understanding what's happening with CO2, what's happening with light, what's happening with temperature. And then we're able to track how that impacted yield, right? And so if we're making a change in the farm, let's say we leave the lights on for an extra 5 minutes in a day and it turns out that increases the yield, then all of the farms get to know about that and they all change and they all increase their yield. Even cooler, because we have this farm now, which is exactly the same as the farm in Brooklyn, if we make an insight in the farm in Brooklyn, we can then push that insight to Michigan. Or if a farmer in Michigan comes up with an insight and improves things in Michigan, we can push that insight to Brooklyn. So as the network of farms gets larger, it also gets smarter, we learn faster, and basically we're growing much more food in the city and we're able to bring that real local food to many more people all year round. So, in a nutshell, that's what's happening in the tech. Does anybody have any questions about what's happening in the box? So the question was, what is the operating cost? So I'm not going to get into specific dollars here, but if you think about the cost breakdown, you've obviously got energy from the light, you've got water, and then actually the largest cost, if you like, is actually the farmers, so the labor, right? But our feeling is that when you have a farmer in that system who's willing the plant to come to life, and it provides, the farmer provides the love for the food, that's actually what makes it taste so good. So it's very easy to calculate the ROI once you've seen the quality and tasted the quality of the food. So the question was, what are the guys doing in the farm right now? So actually they're harvesting right now. So as you know, there's a massive food show that's happening for the next 2 days. So we've grown this food on demand so that we know it's perfect and ready to be harvested at the exact day before the food show, right? That's the level of precision that you can get with the farms. And so the guys here are harvesting, they'll pack that food will go over to the food show tonight, and then tomorrow people at the food show will be able to taste samples, and we're also making some basil lemonade from that food. So we'll go, not quite farm to table, but farm to food show, same day of harvest. Yeah, the question was, how many can you stack high? So that's a very interesting theoretical question. You can certainly do it. I'm not sure I'd want to be the first one to try. But yes, one of the reasons that we built the farms inside shipping containers is they're built, to handle that completely, right? So obviously in an area like this where there are multiple acres, if customer demand increased, you would probably add modules on the side, right? But if you were doing this in the middle of a dense city, right, and customer demand increases, then you would start to stack them for sure. So the question was, what's in the nutrients? So it's NPK, right, the same as you would in an outdoor farm. We're growing basil, we're growing mint, we're growing chives, we're growing lettuces. It's exactly the same product as you would find in an outdoor farm, but it's just optimized climate to make it taste amazing. But in terms of nutrients, we need exactly the same, right? The question was, can you compare the nutrients to an outdoor farm? So yeah, exactly, right? So our baseline is the Union Square Organic Farmers Market in New York City. That's our minimum baseline, right? We want to make sure we're at least as good as that, which is pretty amazing. And then, of course, because it's controlled, we can better from there, right? This is a standard 40-foot shipping container. There's actually, rather like your car has a VIN, right? There's a VIN equivalent on the shipping container, so you're able to scan it and see what happened. This guy actually was shipping food from China to America 2 years ago. And I think there's a lovely story there about now it's being used to grow hyper-local food in this market. But yeah, standard shipping container. So this climate is north of Italy, quasi-Mediterranean. You can grow all sorts of things that work well in that climate, right? The guy next to it, we might be growing mint in there, so that's going to feel a little cooler, right? That might be like the Pacific Northwest, right? And so you can grow a range of crops, but those that work for that climate. That's obviously the beauty with having 10 of these containers, that we can have 10 climates here and grow a range of things. So we actually partner with a company called Signify, which is a subset of Philips, which are a very big Dutch lighting company that have probably 50 plus years experience figuring out lighting for greenhouse growers. And so we have a very deep relationship with them, both on the hardware side, but also the science side and the R&D side. This is the first time that Signify lights, Philips lights, have been used in this configuration in an indoor farm like this. So what can you grow in the farm, right? So we do grow a lot of leafy greens.
We grow a lot of herbs, so basil, mint, chives. We grow leafies, lettuces, kale, arugula. The question is not so much about capability, right? The question is more about kind of economics today, right? So capability-wise, in our R&D farm in Brooklyn, we have grown eggplants, turnips. We had a chili eating competition in the office with some habaneros that the farmers grew, right? They're amazing. Our strawberries, by the way, are exceptional. But briefly, without getting kind of too lost in the science, right? A plant is taking energy from a light source and then converting that into biomass. So the more biomass you're trying to create, the heavier the vegetable, right? The more energy is required. And, so leafy greens and herbs, not too much biomass, not too much energy. You can get that product to market today at a very competitive price. If I was growing a turnip for you, a lot more biomass, much more energy, it probably wouldn't make sense today. The good news, though, is that if I'm an outdoor farmer, I can't suddenly look at the sun and make it twice as efficient and bring my cost down. But as an indoor farmer, I can constantly improve the lighting system and the climate control and all of the technology and bring those costs down, right? So even 18 months ago when we first started talking with Rich and others, economics were questionable. Now this is going to be a rocket ship. So what's next and what's next and what's next? I would imagine we'll be talking to you about strawberries pretty soon here. So the question was, do you ever foresee an application for making wine? I mean, personal passion project, that would be awesome. I'd love my own wine container. You probably wouldn't find me for months on end, actually. I'd be stuck in there. So yeah, listen, it's all possible, right? Again, it's not a question of capability, it's around economics. But it's also a question around workflow and making sure that what you're growing you can harvest very efficiently, you can process if you need to do that efficiently. It plugs into the wider Gordon food service distribution network efficiently, right? Because this is very much a partnership to go from farm to table, right? So the farming is one aspect of it, but you've really got to think about that whole supply chain. But yes, theoretically, no problem. Oh yeah, so the question is, what are the plans for more containers? So I think Rich said it best, right? This is a proof of concept. This has been stood up. 6 months ago, this was a pipe dream, right? Now we have a farm, and we've learned a lot, and we're now sort of, as Rich said, right? The sort of idea is to build these out all across the continent. So watch this space. I think that's a great place to end, actually. The future. All right, thank you so much for coming, everybody, today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.